Welcome guys, welcome back to my channel. This is New Year 2024. Woo! And we're here with a new special guest. Can you say hi to our audience, please?
I'm Cassidy. I'm a fashion photographer. And yeah, I've been shooting since I was pretty young, like around 8 years old, and I mostly work in fashion scene now. But yeah, I go back and forth from Paris to Vancouver, and I've been loving it ever since.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. This is our first ever episode on 2024. And Cassidy, you haven't been back for a long time, right, from Paris?
Yeah, I've been back for maybe about 2 weeks now, so very excited to be back and just kind of be in like a safe, comfortable like home environment with my family. But
how's the Vancouver weather for you?
Very cold, very cold. It's snowy outside now, which was kind of a little bit of a scare coming back. But yeah, I like spent the last week in Arizona as well, so the desert,
nice.
and it was like super hot with like just like a family vacation. But yeah, like coming back, it was like pretty much a big shock.
Yeah, you came back on the right time to experience the Canadian weather.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Okay. I know we've been following each other for a while on Instagram. And we both are in Vancouver fashion scene taking photos. What's the main thing you notice in Vancouver fashion scene compared to Paris fashion scene?
There's quite a lot in terms of like the aesthetics and the market and things like that. I mean, obviously Vancouver has more like athleisure type of wear, more casual, like big brands or like I guess like Arc'teryx, Lululemon, things like that. That would be kind of the niche here. But in Paris, like they have like Chanel and they have Louis Vuitton and they have all of these big brands. And I think in Paris there's a lot more luxury going on. And in terms of like the scene and like working in the scene, I find that people are very they're blunt. They're pretty blunt out there, but they take it more like very like seriously in terms of like this is my full-time career, like very passionate. Not saying that people in Vancouver aren't passionate, but there is just like such a big creative scene and fashion scene in Paris, because I mean people move to Paris just to make it, like as in like me as well, but like so many people, like that is the quote unquote like dream city to like work in and live in because of all of the art and culture that comes with being in Paris. So I think the difference would be just like the people kind of you're surrounded with and their type of energy going towards their career. But yeah.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting to hear. So is that one of the deciding factor why you decide to go to Paris?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been quite an adventurous person. Like I always want to experience new things. And I was kind of at the point of my life that I was deciding to move to Paris. I really was just looking for something new. I did French immersion in high school.
Nice.
So I really wanted to like put my French to the test. Didn't turn out the best, but I mean,
you tried.
I tried and it was like, it was an experience. But yeah, I think I wanted to experience something new for sure as like a personal achievement. But in terms of career, I mean, like obviously Paris is like a fashion capital. I wanted to experience a new creative scene. And I mean, everyone kind of talks very highly about Paris. I know so many people who've been to Paris and they were like, oh, Cassidy, you would love it. So I'm like, oh my God, like maybe I should go. But yeah, I think the deciding factor was just like I was ready for something new in my personal life and also just like in my work. And that was like kind of like what propelled me to make the move.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. So when it comes to breaking into any scene or any industry, it's very hard, right?
For sure.
So how was your experience like going into Paris and trying to unfold your dream?
So it was quite difficult. I mean, as anything, I think. A lot of my work was kind of built up over the years. I mean, I've been shooting since I was 8 years old, so my whole life has kind of just been surrounded by creativity and photography and like art in general. But like, yeah, every year was like kind of like a step further to like, I want to make it to Paris. Like that's always kind of been like in the back of my mind. But I think like, I moved in early August, beginning of August. and I was like traveling around Europe, and then I kind of settled back in Paris at the end of August. And it was like, that was like start of Fashion Week in September. So, yeah, I started with London Fashion Week, and then we did Milan and Paris as well. And that was kind of like, there was like, I mean, obviously a lot going on during Fashion Month. Everyone's like running to castings, everyone's running to the different shows and things like that.
People who are not in fashion scene, they will wonder, like, how do you go to Fashion Week? How do you even get near those events? Like, do you get invited, or do you just walk up to it and get your shots? Like, what are the rules, and how do you get there?
Fun question. I feel like it's kind of like this industry is a lot about who you know and things like that. In the Europe scene, it's more about like who you know, things like that, reaching out to PR agencies, because ultimately they're the ones kind of deciding and sending you the invites. But it is quite like, I guess, difficult to kind of get an invitation, sending your portfolio. And again, those are like things that I've built up over the years. So it wasn't necessarily like one thing where I could just like reach out randomly type thing. But yeah, like connections and things like that. But also kind of just realizing that like the answer is always no until you try, right? So that's kind of just like been my motto throughout. So yeah.
So do you have any tips for people who want to go to those big fashion weeks and achieve their dreams in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing is just going for it. You honestly never know. I mean, I think it's just, there's such an exciting thing about not knowing, and I've always thrived off of not knowing the future, and I love that. I love just kind of going for it, and I think, yeah, just take the risk, because honestly, like, there's, like, you never know what's going to happen.
I agree with you, because I don't go based on what I know and what is already there. There's nothing fun in it, right?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
create your own path, right?
Exactly. Like this time last year, I would have never known that I was gonna be in Paris, let alone like shooting the Europe Fashion Weeks. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, wow. So who's the most interesting person you met during Fashion Week?
Ooh, I've met so many interesting people. People who work for like the big brands, like things like that. I've met so many interesting creatives. I specifically met like this one designer. She was from Copenhagen, and we've like chatted a lot, and she's just so passionate about her work that it was really inspiring to me, which I really appreciated. Getting to know someone who also moved from another country to Paris to work in the industry in Paris and like work in luxury, and she wants to work in haute couture. I think that was really inspiring to me, just seeing that there are so many other people who are willing to take risks as well. Yeah.
Wow. I think it's very special when you get to meet people who are in same interest as you, and also have same passion or even more passion into their work they're doing. You mentioned this a little bit earlier. People have a lot of perspectives when it comes to Paris, whether it's like dream city or it's overrated. What's your thought on it?
I was going in with low expectations, because everyone's like, oh my God, there's so much garbage on the floor. There's a lot of rats. Like, people aren't the nicest, things like that. But I like loved my experience in Paris.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I did have some faults. Like, obviously, there's a lot of pickpocketing. I never got pickpocketed, but a lot of my friends did. But there's just like a lot of kind of that going on in Europe in general too. But like in terms of like the city, like it was like everything that I kind of ever wanted, in terms of like the architecture, and there were so many art galleries, you never get bored, so many museums that were so inspiring, and regardless if it was like art from whatever, like like a while ago, I don't know, like from every era, it kind of like reminds you about how important art is and how that shapes culture and how it shapes society. And I think that was really inspiring, just to be able to be in a place where art really started, one of the places. So, yeah.
Wow. I know this is kind of side question, but you mentioned about, thieves there. What's your one tip you can give to people who are visiting and who preventing from that to happen?
So many tips. I think Okay, this happened to me where I didn't get my phone stolen, luckily, but I was holding my phone and the Eiffel Tower was pink that night, and I lived closer to the Eiffel Tower. So I was on FaceTime with my friend from home, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna show you the pink Eiffel Tower. And I like hold my phone up, and there's a guy on like a Lime scooter, and he scoots by and he tries to snatch my phone, but I kind of like moved my body.
Oh my
So that
gosh.
he like, so I kind of like elbowed him a little bit, like obviously unintentionally, but like,
I mean, he deserved it at this
he was
point.
trying to steal
I
my phone, so
mean-
maybe I shouldn't feel that bad. But he like grabbed my phone and he grabbed my hair as well because he was like going by so fast. But yeah, so maybe
Oh my gosh.
hold your phone closer. Also like in the metros when the doors open, don't like don't be on your phone when the doors are open because they usually like snatch it and then the doors close and then you're off. So it's a big thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, that's very clever.
Yeah, no, right. It's like, oh, you're actually kind of smart.
Yeah, but you, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Things to look out for. You would never image that in other places. For
And never put your
house.
phone in your back pocket.
Oof.
Like, just keep it with you. I usually use like a fanny pack. A lot of people use money belts where it's like a belt under your pants, and then they just like put their money like basically in their pants. But yeah,
I mean, anything to get,
you kind of
prevent
have to.
it.
Yeah,
you kind of have
or like
to.
your passport if you're just like traveling or you're backpacking or whatever. Super important. But yeah.
Okay. Another question on that, kind of on that note, like, even in Vancouver, when you walk downtown, you see people like, oh, you can tell the difference from people who are visiting and people who are living in the city, right? Do you have that kind of indicator for yourself too when you look at people in Paris? You can tell who are visiting and who are here for good time?
Yeah, I mean, I lived near the Eiffel Tower, so there was a lot of tourists there anyway. But yeah, I would say, I mean, obviously, if you're gonna like use Google Maps on your phone, like, and you're like looking around, it's like, yeah, that's a tourist.
Yes.
Or like,
What about style?
oh, style for sure. Like a lot of people were wearing like the tourists were wearing like berets and like all of that stuff, which I think is adorable. Like I love it. But yeah, like not usually the locals really wear that type of outfits, but I think it's so cute. Or like when they're like near the Louvre and they're like doing those like classic poses and stuff, I think it's really cute. But yeah, but I wouldn't say I'm necessarily like a local because I wasn't born in Paris. I just learned to know it. And so I would say like Vancouver's my home and I think it'll always be my home. But obviously like I think I'm just like middle ground between tourist and local, if that makes sense. But yeah.
I think, that it all comes down to observation, right? You can pay attention to little details that makes them stand out a little more than other people. And what about style, like fashion style? What is the typical wear in Paris? Because if you think about Vancouver, Lululemon, that comes to my mind.
Super
like
puffs,
activewear. Aritzia, that kind of style. What about Paris?
A lot of like scarves. They wear like a lot of stripes and like knit sweaters, things like that. A lot of boots. A lot of people wear either like totes or like Longchamp bags type of thing, rather than like I guess like a backpack or something that I would see at like school, things like that. But
okay.
Yeah, and people definitely, like, when you go out, even if you're going to the grocery store, I think a lot of people would wear sweats here and things like that. Like, I do that here, but when I was going out to get groceries in Paris, I was fully decked out in, like, boots and nice pants and things like that. Like,
wow.
Yeah, like, they kind of, like, look at you and they're like, what is she wearing? Why is she wearing, like, pajamas, basically? So,
like out in public.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's very interesting. Do you see people like putting on makeup or fixing their hairs on the street, or is that kind of
not really on the street? It's more like before you leave the house, and then I guess like if you were to go in the bathroom, But
I mean that's something like on the side note because I've seen that in Asian countries they do a lot. I don't think they really mind doing it on the public transit or anywhere like public. They just fix their hair and fix their makeup quickly. And here it seems like it's not.
They're like,
they're like,
I look how I look. Yeah.
That's why you don't do that here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really interesting. How about in terms of like shoes, like personally, I don't really notice a lot of people wearing heels here, anything fancy. It's more like comfort shoes and
Yeah.
something that is more active based. What about shoes? Do you notice any difference in that?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people wear like heeled boots out, or like, let me think of the word. Cut it out, maybe. Oh, they wear like heeled boots and like loafers and things like that too, which is like cool to me because I love that type of style. But yeah, like different kind of, I guess, style that fits their outfits and things like that.
Okay, cool. How about lifestyle? Because I know every city has, normal night out or weekends or day-to-day life is a little different. Do you see anything different compared to Vancouver?
I think they have like a different type of work-life balance. I mean, like all of August, Europe kind of goes on vacation, which I think is like super cool. Like would love that for everyone here. But yeah, they also like have longer breaks, which I would also like to implement in my life. But sometimes you can't. But yeah, yeah, like kind of like a better. I think better in the sense that like you kind of have more of like a work-life balance that's healthier, I think. Not to say that they don't necessarily work that hard, but I think they do, but in a sense that like there's still a lot of value in having life outside of work. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So I know you had experience now in Paris and also in Vancouver, different fashion scene. And from your experience, do you think Vancouver has future in their fashion scene?
Yes, but in a different way. I think the special thing about Paris and places like Milan as well, there's so much history to their fashion, and there is a lot of luxury, and it's like a different type of fashion. Whereas I think here there's like a lot more opportunity for hiking type of fashion, athleisure, things like that, which is like different, right? And I think that's super exciting as well. But I think when we say there's future in fashion here, there's future in fashion in a different sense because we don't have that same type of history that comes with like Europe type style fashion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So for yourself, where do you see yourself and what kind of work do you see yourself doing in next year or so?
Within the next year, so I'm finishing my degree. I go to UBC, and that's what like the plan is for the next few months, and then I'll be hopefully hopping back to Paris and doing some fashion weeks there. But I ultimately would love to work in more luxury and haute couture. I think that's kind of more my scene and my style and something that is what I want to do. But I mean, I'm happy to be here for the next little bit in Vancouver because I just like love being home, and there's like the brands here are also great. So yeah.
Oh, nice. How about models? Are the models different compared to Vancouver and Paris? Like in terms of what they do? How should I phrase this? Because like you said earlier, people in Paris, they take it more seriously, full time, and they're like devoting their time to be more like endorse themselves into fully in fashion scene. But Vancouver, because of its living situation, maybe it's really hard to do so. So I feel like in terms of models, like how they treat work and how they approach work might look a little different. How do you find it?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of models here, they have like part-time jobs and things like that, which obviously I think they do in Paris as well. But from what I've like met, like the models from agencies in Paris, they're very much more like, oh, this is like more of a full-time thing. I think there's a lot more work in terms of brands in Paris, which is like, so it gives them more opportunities to work in their market. But so I would say, like, not that they're necessarily more dedicated, but more that they have more opportunities so they're able to be, because obviously you do have to work. You have to be conscious about your living necessities as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because, where there's opportunity, there's more job available. So I think
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, there's more competition, but also there is more chance of getting the roles as well. So
Yeah,
I think that's a great point.
exactly.
So what would be your advice to people who wants to go into fashion industry in Europe?
I would say just like reach out to people. It's obviously so much about who you know. And I think just like keep working towards it. Keep building your portfolio, research about fashion history, research about the market there, the types of clients there. Yeah, just like everything in general. I think it's so valuable to know fashion history when you're working in Europe. And yeah, just like keep meeting people, keep putting your name out there. I think there's like this fear that a lot of people have, especially like as like a young person working in the industry, that people are going to find you annoying or pushy, but there's a lot of value in being like, you know what, no, this is my work, and I'm proud of it, and I want to show you this, because how else are people going to hire you if they don't even know that your work exists? You know, they can say no when they see your work, but if they don't even see your work, it's no, you know. So yeah.
Okay, wow, that's a great tip. And also people who wants to dabble into the fashion photography, do you have one easy step they can try out?
I would say reach out to your friends first. I mean, I started when I was in high school, and my two best friends would model for me like every day, literally after school. I would take them out and be like, wear a cute outfit today, like we're gonna go take photos. And I just loved the fact that I started because I loved the fact that they felt confident, and it made me feel better too as like a person, and so that's kind of why I started. And then eventually, like, I fell in love with it. But I would say, yeah, just start shooting your friends, reach out to people that you know, things like that, and just like keep working towards it. Yeah.
Okay, wow. That's very inspiring. Thanks for sharing that. So for people who wants to check out your work, where should they find you?
You can find me on CassidyChenPhotography.ca. That's my website. Or my Instagram is Cassidy Chen Photography.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you.
Please make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and check out Cassidy's work too. Thank you.
Thank you.